Welcome to God with George Ortega. It's December 31st, New Year's Eve at 10:47 p.m. Eastern Time. This is episode number 51. And and I was jamming to some music and also playing a bit to what was in the on TV, the Dick Clark thing, the Channel 7, whatever. But I couldn't relate to that music all that well. So I was like jamming to mainly like classic rock. But and I'm just like I'm celebrating. I because I think it's important to celebrate. I think it's actually a mitzvah. I think to celebrate. You know. Um, yes. All right. So let's on with the show. So yeah, I figured I could have joined a meetup, a bunch of people that I don't really know, actually, most of them, I guess. I could have perhaps, um, all right, this is neither here nor there, because I'm here. And, uh, and, um, and we're going to talk about God, okay? And so again, this is like 10:49 p.m. Eastern time. And so I guess this will be three episodes, two episodes will take us to close to midnight, and then I guess the third episode, unless no, you know what I could do, what I will do, since I'll do this episode, then I'll take a bit of a break, you know I don't know, 10 minutes or so, or 15 maybe, I don't know, and I'll do a little jamming. I'll do jamming to some like classic rock, and then I will be back for the New Year's Eve God episode. How amazing is that? Yes. All right. So, all right. Now let's talk about God, because that's what the show is about, right? Because this God idea, it's the most amazing idea ever, period. Because think about it. It's like, you know, all right, I shouldn't just call it an idea, because to call it an idea somewhat demeans it, or diminishes it, minimalizes it. It's not a God idea. It's like the God acknowledgement. We've had, well, the God understanding, God introduction through Abraham, you know, but um, but in today's world, the understanding of God, um, as this series is trying to present, as everything, God being you and everyone you know, and me and everyone I know, and everything. That's who God is. And it's like, I think it's wise and wonderful to cultivate a kind of a mindset, a consciousness that keeps that in mind, that that sees reality as miraculous, as everything being a miracle, beyond our understanding, which ultimately, fundamentally, it is. I mean, that's not a platitude. Everything is miraculously wonderful. And so, yeah, I'm glad that, I mean, again, I could have joined a meetup, some people, whatever, which would have been cool. I mean, I may do that later. I may do that at 12 after end this second episode. I'll look for a meetup that's having a party, and maybe I'll join them. But for now, we're talking about God, and we're talking about God as best we can. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. I mean, I guess the reason, well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. In the one sense, if God is everything, you can't not talk about God. You know, everything you talk about, whatever it is part of God. So you're talking about God. All right, but you know, that's not really what we're striving for, what we're aiming for is to cultivate a recognition of God as everything, as the sovereign, all-knowing everything, you know, all-powerful. I mean, um, yeah, that's probably the most amazing cognition. So it's not an idea. An idea is like, you know, it's a cognition, I guess. Awareness, understanding. Um, well, I mean, at a certain point, it must have been a discovery. You know, they discovered God. Um, but you know, for us, it's having to rediscover God over and over. That's not, you know, completely accurate. To stay connected with God, you know, and you know, religion is wonderful for that. I mean, like, you know, I mean, God is all over the Bible. You know, I mean, it's, you know, a great way to be conscious of God's presence, to be conscious of God's everythingness, God's grandeur, God's power, God's wisdom, you know, you name it, is by being part of a congregation, by being part of a group of people who are together for the purpose of enjoying worshiping God with each other, helping each other, one another, um, not just worship God, but enjoy our lives and be good to each other, you know? That's I think religion brings out that part of us. You know, when we go to a house of worship, we're on our best behavior. When we relate to people that are part of our congregation, we are on our best behavior, and that's because we all understand and acknowledge that religion, that the congregation is about goodness and God. You know, and that's a great, you know, that's something that's really great about religious communities. So yeah, yeah, it's good. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not like you have to be a part of a religious community to have this kind of God consciousness, but but to to have the opportunity, you know, um, it just it brings in a social dimension, you know, learning with each other, teaching each other, learning from each other, as well as just enjoying each other's company, because that's, you know, that's what congregations are probably most about, you know, which is fine. You know, God is probably pleased with that. You know, if not everyone has a God consciousness, you know, that's all right as long as people are being kind and good and yeah and all that, which is what, you know, and happy, which is that what's important, you know. Um, so so yeah, we've got about an hour and 4 minutes until there actually is going to be a big wall falling on in Times Square. I saw it earlier on the news. You know, it's made by with some kind of glassware. I don't know, but and I checked out a bit of it. See, all right, I'm supposed to be talking about God, so let's get back to it. Um, yeah, to be filled with God's presence, to understand that everything is God is to lose your fear, you know, to basically just understand that, I mean, that also that God is in control of everything. what happens is God's will, always. I mean, and I just got a little distracted because, outside my neighbor, I guess, went in or went out or something. And that's kind of like a metaphor for the world. We try to stay focused on God, on goodness, on wisdom. But then the world gets in the way in a billion different ways. And and that's the challenge. The challenge is to maintain one's God consciousness, notwithstanding. And that's what this series is about. That's what I am trying to do. And I'm kind of like bringing you into this project, for myself, but also hopefully to influence you to do the same. I mean, I'm optimistic. Um, we've got like we've got some serious challenges ahead of us that God has put before us because God isn't apparently pleased with our level of virtue and He wants us to be more virtuous. So He's threatening us, like with climate change, and He's punishing us with this pandemic and other threats and stuff. So I get what's going on, but I know the arc of history, and it could be, yes, it could be that, all right, this is the apex, just like the Roman civilization collapsed. Yes, maybe we're on the edge of collapse. But somehow I don't, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the way it happens. I think what will happen is that we will wake up. It's like this pandemic and this Trump thing perhaps woke us up. It's too soon to tell, but if it's not this, then something will wake us up, and we will regain our virtue. Because it really is all about virtue. And when I'm talking about God, it seems like I'm straying from God to a certain extent, but I'm not. Because really, um, to be close to God is to be close to virtue, goodness. What's goodness? Goodness is what creates happiness. We are designed to want to be happy and very happy, and goodness, God is the wisest way. So it's 11 o'clock. All right, so got an hour till the new year. Second, different episode. All right. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Um, so, oh yes, so all right. God kind of like a parent punishes us, like a parent punishes his or her children. And to the children, it may seem, oh, this is evil. What's this person doing to me? Whereas, then the child understands and the parent knows that they're doing it out of love, out of goodness. You know, and so I think it helps. I think it helps to see the evil and pain in the world in that way. Doesn't help completely. You got to ask yourself, well, why would God want to do that to begin with? If God is all powerful, God could simply just like make this complete paradise and, story's over. I mean, or never ending blissful, and they lived happily forever and ever, you know. So yeah, I mean, we get that, but that's not, I don't know why God hasn't done that yet. I mean, I say yet because I, I'm, I'm still hopeful, I'm still hopeful it'll happen. But here, my science and my understanding inform me that, again, if we rise to the occasion, I believe we will. If we become virtuous, if we not just virtuous, if we understand that that we have a choice, that we either have a civilization that's in slow, more painful decline, year after year, or we turn things around and become more virtuous and make the world the way it should be. So, like again, I believe because we're hedonic, pleasure-seeking, pain-avoiding creatures, we will do this. not out of virtue, not to be good, but out of wisdom, to understand that to not do this would be folly, painful folly for generations, whatever. So I'm looking forward to it. Now, here's the thing. All right, you know, my timeline may not be, you know, the same as, I mean, I would hope this happens tomorrow. I hope that, there's an epiphany, there's a revelation to everyone. Everyone just has this enlightenment and spirit experience where everybody just becomes really virtuous and happy. That'd be great. But I don't know. And if that happens, that's great. But what I'm expecting, with complete confidence, is like within 100 years, 100 years tops, God is going to make, and I had to bring God in because, like, again, I'm straying away from God, and it's important for me to keep this very close around God, very focused on God, because that's what the purpose of the show is, the first purpose. But anyway, so God, excuse me, is on track to make this an amazing world. And the reason I know this, like, there's two books that I've read, and a third one that I really haven't read, but it basically presents the same theme. The first one was by Steven Pinker, The Better Angels of Our Nature. It's a very large book, about 700 pages. I may have like read, and I don't read books generally. I listen to them because most books are not read worthy in my estimation. Um, but um, but he and then another person, um, Johann Norbert, I believe, or Norgard, a Swedish researcher, wrote a book called Progress. And the third one was called Abundance by Peter Diamandis, who's a computer entrepreneur, apparently very wealthy. And they all, in different ways, chronicle how our world is getting so much better, you know, less violent, we're living longer, we're healthier, we're happier. Uh, Not across the board, like I don't think there's ever been a time where animals, non-human animals, have been treated so cruelly. And that probably explains the pandemic and a lot of what we suffer, both collectively and in our personal lives. But so I think, so these books just demonstrate that God has led us on a path. It's kind of like we're going to the promised land, like we're in the desert now. And, God is leading us on a path to a better and better world. But it may not happen all that soon. It may take, 100 years, which isn't all that long, considering, how long humankind has been here. And that's a wonderful kind of a thought. It isn't so very completely about God. So again, I'm gonna, the focus of the show, I'm gonna like keep this on God. So all right, actually, so here's the connection. So this world, let's say it's 50 years. I'm gonna be exceedingly optimistic. 50 years, and I'll go into perhaps the different technologies they can use to, like read Ray Kurzweil's "The Singularity is Near," and you'll get why 50 years isn't a unrealistic estimate. But 50 years from now, so everybody's blissed out, everybody's very virtuous because either through biochemistry or nanotechnology, computers, they have figured out how to make everyone blissful and virtuous. I mean, it could be like, instead of watching all this violence and negativity on TV, in 50 years, they'll probably have realized, hey, if we present really like wonderful stuff, people will be really wonderful. So they'll get that. And again, there'll probably be different ways, teaching happiness in schools, virtue in schools, just, but the outcome, because I'm trying to bring this back to God. The outcome will be that everyone will have achieved, will be living the kind of consciousness that I'm trying to cultivate right now. That, I'm not the only one. There's so many priests and monks and nuns and clerics, throughout the world that have tried, that strive daily for this consciousness. But imagine an entire world immersed in it. Just it's like understanding the wisdom that the Bible teaches, that the holy books of various traditions teach. Understanding right from wrong, understanding what makes for happiness, what makes for the greatest happiness. And so yeah, 50 years, 100 years, I predict God will do that. And so what again, to try to connect it to God more completely, that will be an age where there won't be this division between humanity and God. For example, in a lot of religions today, um, God is transcendent. They believe that God is somewhere out there. He's not here. That's just like so mistaken. God is everything. You can't, if God is everything, God cannot transcend God. All right, so that's where we are now. 50 years, 100 years, we may be in a time where everybody gets that, not just gets that intellectually. I tend to get that intellectually. I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. I certainly don't live it on a moment by moment basis, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this series. I want to kind of like get better and better at having this consciousness, as much moment by moment as possible. But imagine the kind of world that's going to be. My goodness. Because again, the I was talking about this last episode. No, I gotta get back to God. I'm trying to solve the world's problems. Actually, I'm trying to like just promote hope. But um, but no, let's yeah, it's going to be an amazing world. No, I'm all right. Here's the thing. So like, what's happening right now? God is confusing me. On the one hand, God is saying, well, here's what I want you to talk about. I want you to talk about how good the future is going to be. Then on the other hand, she is telling me, well, I'm not sure that's so close to me as I want it to be. So I've got these two messages coming both from God, and eventually she'll figure it out. She'll have me like either talk more directly about her or talk about, how wonderful the future is going to be. But it's just very surreal that this is God's world. This is what God does. We're kind of like, welcome to the God show. We're all stars, All right. So, yeah, well, that's all right. Let's segue to that. Yeah, it's going to be a wonderful future, I believe. Um, it is God's novel, God's screenplay, God's, movie, God's book. You know, um, it's like it's amazing, that we're manifesting God's will. This is like God's imagination. Our reality that we call the world and material world and stuff. This is what God has created and sustained for us, for us to enjoy. And what's very cool, and traditional religions don't tend to go there that much because the prophets of old didn't really talk about it that much. But like, you gotta believe that, this world, this earth, is just one of an infinite number, infinite trillions, quadrillions at least. I, Infinite may be more accurate, but like, so many other worlds, not just like this, but like, different kinds of worlds, and God created them all. And God sustains them all, and God governs them all. And they're all God's story, and they are all God. We are all God. How amazing is that? That is like totally amazing. You got to admit that. The thing about alcohol is that it tends to you know, make one more aware of how amazing things are sometimes. I was walking in the Westchester Mall, and there's this novelty store, and they're selling a T-shirt in the window. They have it in the window. It says like, I drink beer and then I think wise thoughts or something like that. I forget exactly what it said, but like, I mean, and I don't drink all that much really because like, well, because it's not healthy. I mean, give me a break to drink all that much. But occasionally to kind of like reconnect with God, in a very powerful way, yeah, works. And fortunately, because I don't drink, it doesn't take much. So, all right, we've got a minute and 56 seconds left before I have to end this episode. It's 11:13. So, like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 20-minute break. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go on to Smooth, and I'm going to jam to some songs there for about 20 minutes or so. Maybe, record 3 or 4 songs. That's not really related to God. Actually, let me try to relate it to God. I live alone, meaning there's nobody around. And so like basically when I'm doing my guitar playing, my bass playing, my recording these shows, yeah, these shows are partly for people who will see them eventually later, but and they're partly for me, but it's kind of like relating to God, and we as children understand this, much more so than we as adults. But that's our primary relationship, unless it's with ourselves. Um, but and actually, well, kind of like the same, I suppose. All right, we've got about 40 seconds left. So I hope you're enjoying this New Year's Eve. That actually you're watching this on Monday, which is, I don't know, the 4th of January, something like that. So yeah, I hope you had a great New Year's Eve. And I'm gonna like again, I'm gonna do a few recordings and come back and ring in the new year with another episode. So again, I hope you had a great New Year's, and I will see you. I've got like, I'm timing this like on beer. It doesn't time that was like 9 seconds left, and I got to like talk until like it says 0 or something. So, all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, see you.